I'd like to talk about moving, both physically and figuratively, metaphorically. Well, as you can imagine, as you can guess, I'm in the process of moving. And today we finally finished. And I've come to discover I have quite a few books. But, I can't get rid of my books. I've had them all of my life. And gosh, they define your areas of interest at the time, don't they? So, regardless, the movers grumbled, other people were unhappy, but everything got moved, finally. But what was interesting for me, at least, other than the move itself, because I'm always fascinated with the movers, they're a certain genre of human being, if you will. But what I found really interesting is I discovered a diary of all things, that I had written in 1977, and I think it was 18 or 19 years old. And the diary was about a girl, my very first serious girlfriend, and I was lamenting the fact that I hadn't seen her for a while, and we'd actually met in Paris, of all places. And she was an American. I, of course, was a Canadian. And I always remember she had long hair and she played the guitar. So when you go back 50 years, you're kind of captivated by these moments, and you suddenly realize, as Hume has always said, that we're nothing but a string of memories in that sense. And wow, it's so true, because I wouldn't know that man some 50 years ago if it were not for my memory of how he actually developed and struggled and had his failings and his successes, etc., etc. And I think we're pretty much, as human beings, we're pretty much all the same. I also discovered another book that was about a company that I owned for a period of time. That was also kind of a success story. I was written up in a given magazine or whatever. And you say to yourself, wow, life is such a tremendous adventure, isn't it? So the physical move lent itself into, if you will, the psychological or the spiritual move. And I had to ask myself, are you truly moving enough? And I always like to say yes, but at times I feel not, because I don't spend enough time reading. I should read more and have social conversations with more human beings. And I do really try to study everything and everyone as closely as I can. But I think this is a great suggestion, isn't it, from Sadhguru all those years ago, is that I was in that yoga conference. He said that he wasn't any different than anyone else, but that he just focused more. And since I was there, I've tried to do it, and it actually does work to a certain extent. The more you focus, the more you learn. And then, of course, a little bit scary, because the more you realize that you truly don't know anything at all. Nothing. Not really. There's so much more to learn, always. And I do not live in the age of comparison. I don't compare myself to others. The only person I compare myself to is me. And I think it's very important. I compare myself to me, my expectations for what I am going to do with my piece of life. So how am I going to get moving? Well, I think one of the major ways I'm going to get moving is to realize that I must continuously move. In one of my classes, there is a lady who continuously speaks about retirement, and she's going to travel around the world, etc., etc. And in the same class, there's another woman who is almost 80 who is back in school getting her EMBA. And she went through the whole process. She explained to me, she went through the whole process from getting married at a relatively young age and having some children, and then struggling with that because she wanted to learn, but of course she had to finish raising her family, which she did. And then finally, once her family grew up, she then decided she was going to go back to school, which she did. And she then had a business and ultimately became successful. And then after she sold the business, I suppose, she then decided, now I'm going to go back once again to school. And I honor people like this. Truly I do, because they are truly models for all of us. And she's elegantly dressed. She looks really good. And I think she takes some time to be presentable in the world. And I think to myself, gosh, many times we don't do anything at all. We're almost afraid of ourselves. We don't want to show our beauty, both men and women. We don't want to show our beauty to others. It's this inner beauty, but I often suspect the inner beauty doesn't exist at all, because usually if you have inner beauty, the outer beauty shines, and you don't have to be wearing expensive clothing for anyone to know that this is a unique human being. So what do? We realize if we're going to move, we realize firstly that we must move to a certain extent. And then I must create a plan. What's my plan to move from A to B to C to D, etc.? What will I do? Well, I think once again, I learn to document what is going on a daily basis in my notebook. I really do. I believe in the notebook. It's not a diary. It's not a journal. It's a book of my spontaneous thoughts, my creativity, where I'm going with this. And once I begin to document the notebook, then I will begin to truly flesh out this given plan. And then I think the third thing, I need to have a really serious talk with myself and a talk with the universe, talk with God as you see him, right? Whatever that means to you, a force, whatever it is. Talk to this being, because this is your connectivity with the immortal, if I can put it in that way. And I think there's a piece of the immortal, there's a piece of grandeur in all of us. And I think we really need to hold ourselves in awe to a certain extent, don't we? Because I'm so lucky to be me, and I'm so lucky to be alive, to be healthy and thoughtful and all of those things, right? So I guess ultimately the point about the physical move is to change your venue, throw some things away, hopefully end up in a better home, right? And then begin to plan what you're going to do in that new home, how you're going to decorate it, etc., etc. Same with the figurative move, if you will. Make a plan, decide how you're going to move and grow spiritually, intellectually, philosophically, all of that. So you become a better human being, and by doing so, you can then give back to others. In this world that we occupy today in 2026, I think whatever political side you stand on, you realize that the ground below you is in a great state of flux. And it does feel like we're into some very, very strange times, doesn't it? So it's important that we're prepared for whatever happens in the future. Whatever, because once again, your greatest wealth is your mind, always, isn't it? And so if you lost everything, so to speak, and you were thrown figuratively into the street naked, you could start again. So I think this is what physical moving shows us, and this is what figurative moving also shows us, that we must be prepared for change. And in the end, it will truly all be fine. This is my belief. Really, all be fine. And you know what they say. Critical thinking is excellent, especially when you're contemplating a move, and critical thinking is truly great. You take care. God bless. Bye-bye.